Hey everyone, Kavemi here with another Reddit story. Today's is about a man who discovered his wife was cheating and chose to silently disappear from her life. A year later, she manages to find him and tries everything to get him back. It's a compelling story about how one person handles betrayal and moves on. Settle in, enjoy the Minecraft in the background, and let's start. I quietly left after finding out about my wife's cheating, after 3.5 years of marriage. A year later, my ex-wife, whom I had avoided, tracked me down after hearing about my new life. I moved to the mountains. I'm not sure why I'm writing this, but maybe it will help someone now that the problem is over and I've moved on. After 3.5 years of marriage, I learnt my wife was cheating in February 2018. I had a job that sometimes meant a lot of travel, but also allowed me to work from home when I returned as a manager of a tech sales company. My wife had a very high-paying job. Even though things were a little strained because she was working longer hours and I was travelling, we still had what I would call a pretty good marriage. Background: 5 years ago, I met my wife, now ex, at a barbecue hosted by a friend we both knew. We immediately connected after we started talking. To be honest, I felt that being with a woman who was so attractive and smart was a huge plus. My slightly rough manner somehow appealed to her. After a few weeks of dating, we fell in love. When we met at each other's homes, the clothes quickly came off. After 18 months of dating, we got married and moved into a big apartment while saving for a down payment on a house. Things began to change after the first 3 years of marriage. Even though I still loved her, I noticed that she would argue about small issues. When I brought up all the late hours and the frequent work trips, she would get angry. Since she had been moving up in her company, she would claim that it was a necessary part of succeeding. At least that was her excuse. She told me that since I was also gone for weeks at a time, I had no right to question her. In truth, I had only been taking trips for 3 or 4 days every 5 weeks or so. So I assured her that I could easily manage cutting back on my travel time. These circular arguments never ended. Looking back, I realised I didn't know my wife was cheating. Besides our dropping sex life and her consistently late work hours, I would never have suspected anything. I simply thought she was tired from her job. But being turned down so often when I tried to start sex had hurt my ego. Even though she had a work phone and might have been using it, I didn't see the secret texting I'd read about online. She used our spare bedroom as a home office and spent a lot of time there. Around September 2017, Sarah began returning home from work and spending the evening at a work event instead. This increased from 1 night a week to over 3 nights each week. Although I'm not naturally jealous, she would definitely be seen by others, and I know she would need to push away some of the men at her workplace. Despite working with more male bosses than female ones, she gave the impression that she was only focused on her job. The first time I thought she was cheating was a month before D-Day. Before coming home, she had made a quick stop at the grocery store. I was asked to help her with the bags. Something pink was shining from just under the front passenger seat of her car as I was grabbing a few items from the back seat. It was a bra that belonged to my wife. She liked ones from a certain clothing store, so I knew it was hers. Looking back, I can see the bra was a warning sign. She always removes her bra first from under her clothes when she's feeling excited. I'm not sure why, but when I saw this, I felt sick to my stomach right away. I couldn't understand why her bra was beneath the seat. I didn't say anything more. My heart must have been beating so hard that I almost fainted because when I brought the bags back to the kitchen, Sarah asked me how I was feeling and said that I looked like I had seen a ghost. I simply ignored her comment. It took everything I had to hide my feelings, but I did my best not to look upset or betrayed. I decided to try to find out whether or not she was seeing someone that night. The next day, I began to think about all the hints I could have missed. Other than the bra, I had no proof. She works in an office building downtown, and we live in a pretty big city. I decided to temporarily forget the cheating idea and consider giving her more of my attention. I cooked a tasty meal and set the dining table with nice plates, silver and candles one Friday after work. I bought flowers and a good bottle of wine. I showed her the dinner and everything I had made when she arrived, rushing in as usual after work. She apologised and said she was sorry, but she had to go to a local bar to meet up with her co-workers. She mentioned that she needed to take a shower first, but that she could have a small snack with me before she left. I guess I went completely silent because my insides flipped on me. I won't explain the kind of anger I was feeling then, but I had had enough. I took my work cell phone and tossed it in her back seat while she was taking a shower. I had been thinking of this as a way to use my own phone to find her. I walked into the kitchen after that and threw the food and flowers in the trash. After taking a shower, she got ready and looked beautiful as always. "All right, let's eat," she said. "Never mind, go out with your friends," I snapped. She asked me if I was angry after giving me a strange look. "I'm sad that you never want to do anything with me," I said. She got upset and sarcastically commented on how easily I got angry while telling me to stop acting like a kid. I muttered, "Silly me," as I stood there allowing everything to sink in. For once, I felt we should spend the evening together. She simply gave me a sly smile and stormed off. I pulled out my second phone and started tracking my work phone when she left. About 20 minutes away, at the bar she often visits with her co-workers, I caught her stopping. I decided to go find her car. Indeed, it was in the parking lot of the bar. I waited in my car across the street to see if I could spot her. I felt completely different, like a stalker, but I told myself that I had to calm my fear of her whereabouts. I watched her leave the bar with a man about an hour after I got there. He looked like a boss from her company. He grabbed her, pulled her close and kissed her on the lips. My body was totally numb and my stomach started to clench up. They went to a different car and got in together. When their car pulled out, I tried to follow them. You guessed it, they drove to a hotel 10 minutes away. As I stopped on the street beside the hotel, I saw them exit, holding hands and enter. I'd seen enough. I felt foolish. I began hitting the steering wheel with my fist. That was it. Something went totally blank inside of me. I'm not sure if I felt like I was outside my body or blacked out, but as I got better, I felt like I wanted a drink. At this point, my life started on a path I never would have imagined. I simply began to drive out of town, playing back everything I had just seen. I was crying out of anger, as much as I hate to admit it. I found a pleasant little pub on the edge of town, some 30 miles away, and stopped in. I ordered a drink while sitting at the bar. The bartender, a woman, said that I looked like someone had knocked the air out of me, so I guess I looked awful. "You could say that," I answered, half smiling. A man sat down beside me and struck up a discussion. Even though I didn't feel like talking, there was something about this guy that made me feel relaxed. We started talking, and eventually my wife's cheating came up. I told him that all I wanted to do was get away from her and forget about her. "You're not alone, buddy," he replied, giving me a pat on the back. "I went through that a few years ago. I think there's a reason why these things happen. Your life can now take a good or bad turn. I promise you, at this point, everything is totally up to you." His comments for some reason pulled me out of my sadness. Even though I was in pain, I've always been able to see things logically, and he was absolutely correct. We introduced ourselves. Ben was his name. I really liked his down-to-earth nature, even though he was more of a country guy. "Are you going to move out?" he asked. I suppose I never thought to look that far ahead. I had a fight or flight response going on, and I knew I didn't want to be around this woman any longer. "I have an idea and I feel very sorry for your situation," Ben added. "When the time comes, I have a mobile trailer on my land in case you feel the need to go. It might need some work and isn't very good. Why don't you visit and see if you could imagine yourself briefly living in something like that? I'll give you a great price on it. At least you could even park it on a lovely piece of property I own. I would appreciate it if you could watch it for me. It could be helpful to escape your predicament, just a thought." I took a moment to understand his idea. Heck, honey, if I could have escaped my crazy ex-husband years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to go live in his trailer or anything, just to get my head straight, added the bartender, who had been listening to the chat. Perhaps this was just what I needed, but I felt as though I had wandered into a strange situation. "Yes, I'll think about it and maybe check it out," I said to Ben after a while. We split up and agreed to meet at his house in a few days. I began to feel as though I had some perspective and a chance to escape what I thought was terrible heartache, mixed with a nightmare. I knew one thing for sure: I would never, ever want to spend time with my wife again. I find cheating to be so disgusting, and it has always been the one thing I thought I would never accept. I sat on the couch when I arrived home that evening after Sarah. Sarah asked me where I had been when she came out. "Where have you been?" I questioned, turning to face her. "You know, I went to grab drinks," she said. I directly inquired, "Are you cheating on me?" She appeared surprised, but she soon calmed herself and responded, No, why would you ask me that? I told her that I had heard she might be seeing someone at work. Who told you that? She said. Someone I know, I said, but I kept the name a secret. After saying Otogi, you're being ridiculous, she accused me of being drunk and crazy and asked about my whereabouts. We're going to a bar to enjoy some drinks with our friends, I remarked. Despite her obvious desire to ask more questions, she returned to our bedroom and went to bed. Now that I had proof that she had been lying to me for months, I decided to sleep on the sofa. I couldn't sleep at all because I kept seeing her in bed with this guy. I felt sorry for myself, disgusted and hurt. But then I thought about Ben's trailer. The thought of it cheered me up, and it was almost like a revelation. Something must be wrong with me, since the fight or flight response automatically activated amid the pain I was experiencing, and I preferred the flight response. We didn't talk much the following morning, and carried on with the weekend as if nothing had happened. I scheduled a meeting with Ben a few days later. I noticed that Ben had a lovely farm when I got there, and the trailer was actually quite nice, about 26 feet long and fully furnished. It brought back memories of a fun spring break trip I took with friends while I was in college. Ben accepted the money I offered him for the trailer. To be honest, I almost took it for free from him. I drove over to see his mountain property after he gave me directions. There were hiking and biking trails nearby, and the area was lovely, with lots of trees and brush. Ben had a small cabin on a hilltop overlooking the property, with electricity and water available for the trailer, and it was close to the foothills of some mountains. Ben promised to set up the trailer for me and pull it to the location. I tried to get Sarah to be honest over the course of the following few weeks, but all I got was gaslighting. I even plainly warned her that there would be no going back if I found out she was cheating. As a result, she became even more focused on her affair and began to fight back with denials. I nearly laughed at how terrible the denial was. I scolded myself for not taking pictures of the two of them, and I had no hard proof that she had cheated. I decided that I wanted to leave this marriage after going through this emotional pain. Instead of telling Sarah my feelings, I simply began planning while she was at work. I started quietly removing my things from the apartment and transferring them to the trailer. At least I felt like I was doing something about it. I saw a difference in Sarah during this period. Although she had been acting more politely toward me, I believed it was too little, too late. I felt I needed a break too, so she kept going on company outings after work. One night, I got ready too, just as she was leaving. After glancing at me, she asked about my destination. All I said was, meeting up with some friends. You wouldn't enjoy all the shop talk and you don't know them. I interrupted her as she began to ask more questions. She used to say exactly this to me whenever I asked if I might go with her on work trips. All right, have a good time, she added with a slightly offended look. I definitely will, I replied. I began making new friends while working on the trailer and hanging out with Ben at the bar. I felt better after spending time with Ben's wonderful family and friends. I also decided to drink less because I didn't want to start any bad habits. I knew better than to drown myself in self-pity, even though it would have been so easy at this point. Sarah told me that the next week she would be travelling for work. She stated the bosses and a few department heads were going. I hope you have a great time with your boyfriend, I added, glancing at her. I immediately regretted saying that because it caused a furious argument. Although, as Ben had told me, it didn't really matter. I now regret not knowing more about her cheating partner, CP. It doesn't matter who the other guy is, Ben replied. The fact that she chose to leave you is all that matters. She destroyed the marriage whether she admits it or not, brother. Facts are facts. Ben ought to write a book for people who have been cheated on. I had the perfect chance to move out entirely during Sarah's work trip. When she was gone, I collected everything valuable that was mine, including clothes, laptops, and equipment. I didn't take any shared items or furniture. I left a note before I left. It was a long explanation at first, but I chose to make it brief. I wrote, "I hope it was worth it," on a piece of paper. On top of the note on the kitchen table, I set my wedding ring. I felt like a great weight had been lifted as I left. I was free. The hurt would take time to heal, and there would be emotional problems to cope with, but I had started. I needed time to myself and to quickly and quietly get rid of her. The fact that I hadn't challenged her or forced a confession didn't make me proud. I hadn't screamed or shouted. She didn't deserve it, in my opinion. She threw away everything we had, including our plans for the future, our hopes for a home and a family. And now it was all gone. There was no going back. I owed her absolutely nothing. She could handle the results. I hadn't planned anything or called a lawyer. I just wanted a new start and some clarity. The air from the mountains was just what I needed when I got inside my trailer. I resumed running the next week, and it was wonderful to be alive. Sarah texted things like, "We just landed," "We're having a team dinner," and so on while she was away. "Where are you?" was the question in a few messages. "Why haven't you gotten back to me?" I didn't answer. My phone exploded with calls and texts when she got home. She kept trying to get in touch with me, but I ignored her. Her mother also tried to phone me after the first day, but I didn't pick up. She didn't try to contact my father because we aren't close, and he is the only member of my family that I still have. Her messages grew more urgent after she was ignored for a week. "What is this?" was one of the texts she sent. "We must speak. I'm not sure what you believe you know, but nothing is happening. There isn't an affair going on." She finally texted me after a week of not answering, saying, "I'm sorry, things got out of hand. It didn't matter that I was involved with someone at work. You were absent a lot while I was busy with my work. I simply made an error. I intended to terminate it." An error. I had been waiting for this confession all along, yet somehow it only made me hate her more. Why was she unable to be truthful? I didn't have any dreams about a future with this woman. Errors don't persist for 6, 8, or a year. Her pleas for me to return and work on the marriage eventually grew weak. I refused to respond to her even after she stopped bothering me for a few weeks. I didn't want her to learn where I lived or to snoop around in my life. I didn't want my safe place to be ruined by this woman. She then began sending nasty texts like, "You're a coward one day. You refuse to speak to me. You have no respect for us. Come home, please, so we can discuss. You're where I'm able to visit you. Max, please let's chat and make things right, damn it." Although I don't recall all of the texts, they all appeared to be excuses with minimal, genuine regret. In one ear, I let them go and out the other. After a while, I switched my phone number. Update June 2018. I received an email from Sarah informing me that she had hired a lawyer and was going to file for divorce. I just said, "Okay, that sounds good." This led to a flood of emails requesting that I visit her and other things. She wrote that she would stop bothering me if I agreed to an uncontested divorce after realising this wouldn't work. After I agreed, I was truly free. A few months later, after I moved out of our apartment, I never had to see her again. She seemed to care more about that than I did. Even though neither of us had any closure, I would occasionally think of her for a few months. And yes, the sadness would suddenly come to me, like when I heard a song we used to enjoy. After a while though, I simply stopped thinking about her. Update 2. Now that I'm officially divorced, things are going great. In truth, I got to know a wonderful girl just down the hill from my house. I was running on the trail. We clicked when I helped her replace a flat tyre. Despite being a few years younger than me, she is fantastic and quite cute. She refers to me as her mountain man and loves my way of life. Although I'm not in a rush to commit, I also don't plan to give up on women completely. I have no intention of moving out of the trailer anytime soon. I enjoy being outside and have made my life simple. It made everything easier for me, including the grief and my ex-wife. I am aware that everyone handles these situations in a unique way. I was lucky to be in my 3rd year of marriage, and not yet a father. I believe I acted in my own best interests. You don't have to spend your entire life with someone who cheats. If you go through something similar, try not to think about it too much. Continue living your life as you improve yourself. It will get better. I hope everyone has the best possible life. I've revised this roughly 5 times to make it easy to read, and I just wanted to give you an update on my ex-wife's condition. I was worried that my ex-wife was attempting to find me, as I said in my earlier post. I left our previous home, which was around 2 hours away. I ran into her last weekend at a coffee shop I often visit in the town close to my home. It didn't seem like a coincidence to me. Fortunately, I managed to get away before she noticed me. 3rd update. I went into town this past weekend to get groceries and made a stop at my normal coffee shop. I was using their free internet to work on some paperwork for work. I finished and walked out of the coffee shop. I was on my way to my truck when I heard someone shout, "Max!" When I turned to look across the street, I saw Sarah. I was being waved at by my ex-wife. Finally, the big moment had arrived. She hurried across the street toward me and I stood there in disbelief. As though waiting for a hug, she walked over and extended her hand. I stopped her right away by automatically holding out my arms with my palms up. She appeared to be in severe pain. Then she added, "I've been searching for you, Max. I've wanted to see you since I heard you moved here. Can we have a conversation, please?" I felt like an animal kept in a cage. Yes, I did. "All right, let's find a table or something, and we can talk for a minute." I finally gave in. When she asked if we could come to my house, I firmly refused. At the end of the street, she followed me down to a bench outside a small store. She began by commenting on how much I had changed and how much she liked my new appearance, beard and level of fitness. She talked a lot about how much my body had changed. Wearing a tank top, small white shorts and her hair in a ponytail, just like I used to enjoy, she was really trying to charm me. I had my guard up. She was clearly trying to use her looks. I needed to control myself so I could see where this was going. She began by saying she was sorry about the affair. She claimed that after I left, bad things had severely impacted her when her employer learned of the affair. The situation became so tense that she eventually quit. Her cheating partner, CP, who was engaged at the time, was criticised and was moved to a different department within the company. She responded by telling his fiancée the truth after he blamed her for everything, which caused them to break up. This is when she bowed her head and began to cry. I didn't say anything. I just sat there and looked around. She stood up straight and looked at me for a while. "What do you want from me?" I asked. She assured me that she had no intention of having an affair. She stated that the company's politics and position drew her in, and that her CP used his charm and influence to corrupt her. She admitted that she felt she was taking advantage of him as much as he was taking advantage of her. After I accused her of cheating, she stated that she intended to come clean. She drank after work to ease the guilt she felt at the moment because she hated herself. She claimed that she felt so stupid, so alone, and as if her heart had burst with loss. Right after I left, she ended her relationship with her CP right away. She believed she had to find me to see if there was any chance of getting back together, because I refused to speak with her or get in touch with her. She wanted a fresh start. She hoped we could start over, even though she knew we were divorced. I simply stared at her. I then told her, "You have no right to come out here and undo all the harm you have done. Do you think I'll overlook everything you did to destroy our marriage? As I previously stated, we were done if you cheated. Forgiveness does not exist. This relationship will not be restarted. You murdered it as soon as you left me. You ruined everything we had. How foolish do you believe me to be? One evening I watched you enter a hotel with him. Were you aware of that?" I became aware that people were beginning to notice that my voice had been getting louder. She grabbed my arm and started crying. After letting her sob on my shoulder for a while, I pushed her away. "I deserve all this," she replied, glancing up at me. "I am certain that I do. If nothing else, would you allow me to take you out to dinner? I'd rather not go. I would like to speak further. I want to make sure that we are clear about everything. You need to spend more time with me than you have in the past. Max, please. I love you so much, even though I know you might not want to hear it. Before you left me, I had no idea how much I loved you. You broke me as much as I broke you. I'm unable to forgive myself, and I don't want to do so till the day I pass away." She began to cry uncontrollably and hyperventilate. I lifted her up and gave her a hug. It seemed like my only option for calming her. I knew then that I had shattered her heart as severely as she had shattered mine. Walking, we found a peaceful spot to carry on our conversation. "How did you find me?" I said when she had calmed down. "Have you hired a private investigator?" After giving it some thought, she responded, "No," with a small giggle. She clarified that she asked how things were going when she ran into Jane a few weeks prior. Jane didn't mention that she had noticed me. Sarah forced her to reveal all the information. I had warned Jane not to tell her, so she was hesitant. But Sarah kept pushing. Jane finally gave in, but all she knew was that I lived somewhere close by and was in town on her days off. She began to come here to check on me. I kind of laughed when she said that, thinking, darn, Jane can't keep her mouth shut. She blushed. We finally decided to have dinner at a charming little spot with an outdoor area. I made sure we didn't drink anything, since I wasn't going to give her a reason to be extra nice to me, or say she was too drunk to drive back. In fact, we had a good conversation. I then walked her to her car. She insisted that she hadn't dated anyone else since I left and promised strongly that I was the only person she wanted. So she pushed me hard to stay longer. No, it's still way too early for me to go down that road, I informed her. She pleaded with me to come back, but I didn't say yes. After giving her my new email address, I didn't say anything more. My response to her request for my phone number was, "You'll just blow it up with texts and calls." She wept over it, but in the end, she agreed with my choice. She promised to send me an email with information on returning to town the following weekend before she left. I asked her directly, "Would you have forgiven me if I had been the one cheating?" "Yes, in time, but only if we saw a marriage counsellor and worked through the healing process with lots of talking, maybe even a binding agreement," she responded, after pausing to reflect. "All right, maybe I could do that in 5 or 10 years, I answered. "I would wait if that's what it would take," she replied. She then took both of my hands in hers, looked me in the eye and said, "God damn it, Max, I will always love you and will do anything to prove it." This statement truly caught me off guard. Her remarks continued to upset me even after she left. She had spoken those words so firmly. However, I was still unable to imagine us getting back together. Even though I felt better about the incident, I was unable to see her as a friend at this time. Perhaps a friend, but even that was uncertain. I returned home, enjoyed a long run, had some beer, and thought about how far I'd come. Could someone please assure me that she wouldn't ruin the peace I'd created for myself? I had no idea. I had the luxury of time to sort through it and get perspective, but it was all still too clear in my mind. Last update. Most likely this will be my final update. When I first uploaded my story to Reddit, the moderators kept taking it down. In summary, I avoided my ex-wife for more than a year before she found me. She wanted to make amends and start over with us. You will be very disappointed if you thought I would be the typical weak fool and forgive her. She expressed her love and regret for the affair in a long email she sent me last week. She offered to come out and stay with me for the weekend once more. My answer? I shut her down. I informed her that I had no plans to get back together with her. I'm totally happy living alone, taking advantage of my secluded spot and keeping things simple. At 32, I'm not in a rush to make changes. I have my own personal life plan and have enjoyed the company of a few women and friends. I made it clear in my email response that I had no intention of reuniting and declined to give her my phone number. I no longer know or trust you. You made your own choice. I hope the best for you, and perhaps we might become friends in the future. But not right now. She was annoyed by my refusal and responded in a way that showed her true feelings. She admitted that she had taken a job offer from a different state. Her true goal had been for me to go with her, believing that my remote work would make the move simple. She wished we could start over somewhere new. She wanted to visit me in person to try to convince me because she was running out of time before moving. Luckily for me, her time was up because I had a week of business travel scheduled. I'm grateful I will no longer have her in my life. She will soon recognise that her time with me is over, but I anticipate receiving a few more emails. She'll need to find someone else, and she might even cheat on them. To anyone reading this, make the most of your life, let go of the past, and give yourself the strength to move on. To all of you, good luck. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.